So I can tell Alexa to turn off, or I can just unplug her, because she's not always as obedient as I'd like her to be. Welcome, everyone. I'm Lieutenant Ferris Simmons with the Albuquerque Police Department, Community Outreach Division. I hope everybody found good parking and made their way here without too much trauma. I'm really grateful that everybody made the effort to come out and join us. I'd like to introduce our instructor and get right to it. Bonnie Murphy has been in education for over 26 years. She has numerous certifications, special ed, gifted education, counseling, psychology, and she is the Choose Love ambassador for New Mexico. Kind of the way that this program came about is really near and dear to my heart. About a year and a half ago, I lost my son Cameron to suicide. He was 17 years old, and I really looked for opportunities to be like, okay, how do I prevent another mother from walking down this path? How do I find ways to make our community safer and better? And when you look at the statistics, this is a rough ride, guys. This is a rough place. So at APD, and especially in the Community Outreach Division, we're looking for ideas and opportunities to think outside of the box and bring our community together and plant some seeds. So without further ado, I introduce our very gifted instructor, Bonnie Murphy.
Thanks, friend.
All right. Do it to it, lady.
All right, so thank you so much for being here today. This is so important for our whole community. So basically, we're going to be talking about social and emotional learning, but I'm going to take you kind of through a journey, and it starts in education. So let's see, I've got my clicker here. And then that's what happens first. Oh, right, it's got all the little thingies. Okay, so my name is Bonnie Murphy, and thank you so much for the wonderful introduction, Ferris. Ferris and I met, it was kind of interesting how we met. I think it was just destined, it was just really destined to be. And this is Alexandria. She's out in the hallway. She's my volunteer helper this summer. She's a social worker, and she just came out and asked me. We met at a mental health training, and she just asked if she could help out with Choose Love, because it meant something to her, and she's a social emotional advocate as well. So at the end of this, I want to make sure you know we're going to issue some certificates of completion, and you're also going to have an opportunity to sign a pledge that says you're going to choose love. So without further ado, let's see. I'm going to say that's probably... Okay, so our goals for today are we're going to learn about, sorry, can we move this? Thank you, sweetheart. Learn about the connections between education, health, and of course, crime and violence and poverty and all the different issues that are going on in our society with research-based practices, okay, that will help us in the future. We're also going to learn about advocacy and taking responsibility. So it's going to be a teamwork for all of us. And we're also, that's out of order. And then we're going to learn how to choose love to increase our positive outcomes. And then we'll talk about how we're going to all do it together. Wow. So let's just quickly review, and I'm sorry if I'm standing in your way. Yeah, sure. So these are the statistics. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on them because most everybody already knows and understands how New Mexico is faring. In overall child well-being, we are the 50th in the nation. In education, we are the 50th. Economic well-being, we're 49th, second to lowest. Health, 48th, so third from bottom. Family and community, we are 50th. Now, we dropped by 1 point from last year. This is the most recent data that just came out. And then adverse childhood experiences, which I'll explain more about later, we're tied for 50th with Arizona. So we're tied for 49th or 50th, whatever you want to call it. But Arizona is, we're just really struggling. We're having a hard time in New Mexico. So when we talk about the proficiency rates, meaning reading, okay, our nation takes a test called the NAEP. And the NAEP 2017 scores show, which I don't have the 2018 scores just yet, I think they're just about to release them, that in 4th grade and 8th grade, only 27% of our students, 4th grade reading and 4th grade math, only 27% of our students are at or above proficiency in reading or math, which means that 73% are below 4th graders. In 8th grade, there's a little bit higher, a little bit lower, percentage rate for reading than there is math, but it's basically the same. So, what? Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's okay. Do you want to come in? No, that's fine. Oh, okay. No worries. We have 2 more chairs in there, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's 2 more. Yeah. So then we also have the PARC test, which has been very much debated, as in how useful it is. Should we have another test or not? But the fact remains, this is the only real assessment that we have for our state that tells how well our kids are achieving in anything, for the most part. So proficiency rates for PARC, this is for reading. This is 3rd grade through 11th grade. And this is 2015, 16, 17, 18. So overall, for all of the kids, these are all the scores. Okay, so when we look at the all, okay, we have 31.1% of our kids achieving proficiency, proficient or advanced in reading. Now, these scores correlate pretty well. They're pretty close, and that is a sign that our state in the nation is pretty honest about where we're at as far as these test results. But when we start looking into this subgroup data, we've got females, males, white, Black, Hispanic, Asian, American Indian, emotionally disturbed students, students with disabilities, and English language learners. Okay, and that these, as of the 2018, again, the 2019 isn't quite out yet, these are the lowest scores. Students with disabilities, English learners. So that's 4.8% of all the students with disabilities, 7.4% of all students that are English language learners. They're only 4.8% of them are achieving. So when we think about that, so students with disabilities, what would you say is the most obvious characteristic of students with disabilities in classrooms? Age? Oh, ADHD? Okay, yeah, there are lots of different kinds of disabilities that students have. But behavior, behavior is probably one of the more difficult things that we have to deal with, because we have such a teacher shortage right now. We have very, very serious teacher shortage in New Mexico, and especially in special education. So our teachers are stressed, teachers are overworked, they don't receive the training that they need a lot of times. So the behavior is transferring to not achieving academically. Okay, well, plus they have disabilities, but we're supposed to be accommodating for that with the IEPs and individualized education programs. So then when we look at our national suspension and expulsions data, okay, these are all the students that are enrolled right here. And this is how many white students we have. This is how many that are mixed 2 or more races, Hispanic, Black, or African American, Native American, Asian, American Indian. These are the data for in-school suspension because of behavior. So out of the 16% of students that are African American, Black African American, they are suspended. 32% of them are suspended, will be suspended. 33% of them will receive out-of-school suspension, and 42% of them will receive out-of-school suspension multiple times. Okay, and then here's the expulsions over here. So you can see that 51% of our kids are white, They receive 40% of them receive in-school suspension. So there's a lot of details in the data, but what it's telling us is that there's some kind of like some discrimination going on. So it might be underlying bias that may be happening. Maybe we don't quite know how to approach, okay? But overall, if you look at the big picture, that's a lot of suspensions. That's a lot of suspensions. There's a lot of expulsions. There's lots more data that can correlate that. But when you also look at students with disabilities that are suspended out of school, twice as many students with disabilities will be suspended as students with not having disabilities. So that kind of correlates, right, with that low proficiency scoring. So when we talk about suspensions, there are tremendous loss down the road. We've got social losses, okay, from incarceration, depression, things like that. And fiscal losses, meaning the more suspensions, the more money we have to spend down the road to try to fix things. So we're talking about the school to prison pipeline, and I don't like that. Like, it's such a negative connotation, you know? Who came up with that? Well, I mean, you can see how it would be something that you could extrapolate from the data, right? It's true. But I wish we could find a nicer name for it. But it hits. It's hardcore. So, you know, schools experience, in some schools, a prison-like environment. You know, there's underinvestment in things. There's harsh school discipline, zero tolerance policies, pressures, and uncertainty. So LGBTQ students and students with disabilities are punished more often and more harshly, okay, than their peers with the same kinds of behaviors. So out-of-school suspensions are huge by race and disability. This is the other thing that I found was very interesting. The likelihood of being suspended at least once, it correlates with the other data. It's less likely that a white person, way more likely that a black person with a disability is going to be. 1 out of 4. Okay, so just 1 out-of-school suspension in the 9th grade doubles a student's risk of dropping out before graduation. Okay, so now we're going to move over into the suicide rates here in New Mexico. This is a public health issue, absolutely. New Mexico is consistently at least 50% higher than the rest of the U.S. We're the 4th highest, okay, the age-adjusted rate among the 50 states and the District of Columbia, and 45.3% of LGBTQ youth will have thought about, seriously considered committing suicide. That's almost half of those students, of those children. So what are the causes of suicide? Previous suicide attempts, alcohol and substance abuse, a family history of suicide, feelings of hopelessness, isolation, barriers to mental health treatment, a great loss in their life where they're trying to experience some grief, physical illness, and then also they're able to easily access firearms, other lethal methods. Okay, now we're talking about people who've served in the military. I'm sorry, I know this is kind of depressing. That's why I'm trying to move through it kind of fast. As far as mental health, people who've served in the military experience a much higher rate of depression and frequent mental distress because it's trauma that they've dealt with, or areas of trauma. Women, in particular, threefold in recent years and increased 131%. 131%. Yes, ma'am.
1 in 5 who've been in the military are sexually abused by our own soldiers.
Trauma. Yep, absolutely. Thank you. I actually didn't know that. Thank you very much. So we're talking about, when we're talking about adults who are facing these issues, but we're also talking about children. So children can face what's called adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs. And I'll get into what ACEs are in just a few minutes. But so basically, New Mexico, all the states, remember I told you that New Mexico is tied with Arizona? The highest percentage of kinds of adverse childhood experiences that kids in New Mexico face are economic hardship, divorce, alcohol, and violence. So that's why we're so high. These are doesn't mean that there's not other adverse childhood experiences in that child's life, but so basically, the word adverse childhood experience, get used to it. You're going to be hearing it a lot if you haven't already. There's a test that was taken, a survey that was taken by the Kaiser Permanente Foundation in regards to health insurance, and they between 1995 and 1997. So they asked like 10 questions. How many things has a child been exposed to? Divorce, a mental illness in the family, in the household, someone in the family being incarcerated, the alcohol abuse, substance abuse, even being exposed to those things increases the amount of adverse childhood experiences, which causes trauma. So just so you know, trauma comes from things like adverse childhood experiences or adult experiences. So this is New Mexico's juvenile justice incarcerated youth, and 86% of these kids that are incarcerated had 4 or more adverse childhood experiences. And this is compared to Florida. And this was a different, I think this was a different survey. It could have, I'm not sure which survey they used. They could have used the behavioral risk factor resiliency, survey, or the Kaiser Permanente insured survey. But here's Florida for comparison, right here. So are they coming into the juvenile justice system with these adverse childhood experiences, or are they being caused in the juvenile detention centers? They're coming into it with them, right? Do you think it has something to do with why they're there? It seems like it definitely has a correlation for sure. So of the 70% of inmates, now this was back in 2003, I haven't seen a recent survey, but this was pretty amazing back then. 85% of all those juveniles, they were functionally low in literacy. They were hardly even able to read. So juvenile incarceration, it reduces the probability that they're going to graduate from high school, right? They're 3.5 times more likely than high school graduates to be arrested, and they're 63%, high school dropouts are 63% more likely to be incarcerated. Now let's talk about opioid and substance abuse addiction prevention. I wish you could see this better. There's an amazing report out on the Health and Human Services Behavioral Health website that I found was absolutely amazing, and you have all the links to this. So prevention and early intervention programs in schools, homes, and communities, it's not just about drug abuse prevention and early intervention instruction. It's about teaching them how to handle their emotions and be resilient instead of turning to things like drug and alcohol abuse. So now let's go back to education. And I know I'm throwing a lot at you guys. Stop me if you have any questions. I hope I can answer them as we go through. So let's go back to education. In education, we have statutes and policies in place that say that educators are supposed to be looking at this response intervention 3-tiered framework in order to work with kids, in order to help kids in schools. Okay? So this is another view of it. This is how it's supposed to work. Okay? We do tier 1 interventions, tier 1, and 80% of our kids should be able to succeed and be able to read and achieve proficiency with these basic interventions. And that would be research-based core instruction. It's for all students. That means all students, all the way up the whole tier, all the way up the triangle. And then it's prevention for academics and prevention for behavior. It's proactive. okay? So then we continue using these for all the other students. We're only supposed to have about 15% of our kids in New Mexico that are at tier 2, which means they're not succeeding at tier 1. They need a student assistance team. They need a response. They need an academic improvement plan or behavior intervention plan. So we're only, and those are kids that also have 504 plans, but we're only supposed to have about 15% in that column, in that row. And those kids are some students, they're called at-risk students. And they need rapid response. And they also need progress monitoring frequently. So they get some small group interventions. Then we have these kids and tier 3. Those are only students with disabilities. Students with disabilities or gifted students that are not succeeding in the class, in the school. And we can only have 5%. That's all we're supposed to be able to have. And those students, they sometimes need like really intensive, high diagnostic assessments, high intensity interventions. Okay? So keep this in mind. Now, most of the focus should be on prevention, right? This is what we look like in New Mexico. Now, I showed you the data that said that we're 31% of our kids, according to PARC, are proficient, right? So what do you think this means? Just start throwing something. What do you think this means? What is this telling us?
Our education system is poor right now.
Education system is poor. I'm sorry?
We're not funding the right programs for the number of students.
I wouldn't say it's the system that's poor, it's the funding that's poor. We're not funding the education.
We're not funding the yellow section enough. We're not funding the red section enough. We're just hoping everybody can get it in the green section and they can't.
Kids are falling through the cracks.
Okay, so I'm going to say, and what I think is that we need to do the tier 1 better. Because if we don't do this prevention and proactive piece of it, we're going to have a lot of kids in this section. And they might have been able to be helped with something that was basic and simple, rather than going into more detailed.
It's not only the education, but it's like parents being informed, because maybe they don't realize what programs are out there for their kids, and so they don't push for their kids.
Yes, there are so many issues. Like there are so many different areas. Yeah, absolutely. Parents and community. I mean, you saw the data. Families and communities. We're the bottom of the barrel in this nation when it comes to families and communities. We funding. So I'm just going to challenge you guys. How long have we been talking about funding? How long have we been talking about needing more funding? How long have we been trying to adjust the Legislative Finance Committee's allocations in the legislature? How long have we been doing this? A long time.
I think part of funding at any problem, you have to balance it with fiscal responsibility. Because if you can't manage $10, you can't manage $10 million.
And that is another whole thing. Like I tell you, I can't even go there because you're going to hear me on a soapbox. So I'm trying to avoid a little bit of that. But yes, absolutely. That's another piece of it. It's the fiscal responsibility. It's the transparency, the accountability. It's what kind of funding are we putting out there?
Well, I can speak to the tier 1 right now is they've changed our curriculum. They indicate between the teachers that needs it. So we have this beautiful new research-based curriculum with all of the fancy stuff to go with it, and none of us know what to do.
Right? So there's a whole other aspect to it, training for teachers so that teachers are able to do this in schools. No problem. Yes?
I think they also need to provide more supports in the schools, because I have a lot of families that, because they're working 2 jobs, if you suggest that they get help, they say, well, can they get it at the school? I can't take them because they're working 2 or 3 jobs, and so we find that in my school a lot. And so if they were at the schools, then we can refer that child to them there.
So community supports for families, absolutely. And then we've got a great community school initiative going on in our state that is starting to pick up and get going. So I hope that we're going to hear more and see more with that.
And to supplement that and kind of address what we were saying a minute ago, yes, I'm all for more funding. Yes, I'm all for fiscal responsibility. But no matter how much money we throw at it, we've got to throw it in the right areas. It's not necessarily just having another fancy curriculum and stuff. I'm not saying those are bad, but I'm saying that a lot of the problems we have, and I'm coming at this from a different angle. I'm not a teacher, I've been a mental health therapist for 20 years. People do not get sick in a vacuum, they do not get well in a vacuum. There is an entire environmental thing that needs to be addressed. We solved one of the biggest problems. We've got people who are economically stressed out. We've got people who are alcoholic. We've got folks who are violent. There are reasons for that, and another fancy curriculum in and of itself is not going to solve it. So it's a multifaceted approach that needs to happen.
Absolutely. So we're talking prevention and early intervention in schools, maybe even in homes and communities, and then also treating, right? Yes, ma'am.
We also need there needs to be a bigger focus on that social emotional learning piece, because if kids are stressed out or they're experiencing this trauma at home, there's absolutely zero possibility that they're going to be able to go to school and focus on learning how to use or learning math or.
It's so challenging. It's so challenging. Absolutely. Okay, so we've got some ideas here about what this means. Okay, so I'll show you that I think my thoughts are that we need to do this better, because preventing the illnesses, preventing the poverty, preventing all the things that we have to do later on, it seems to be more logical. Prevention for tragedies. So social emotional learning is a strategy that we can use, and it actually is part of a Tier 1 core program. Okay, for academics, it's also a practice. Okay, it's got to be a practice, like this gentleman was saying. It has to be a practice that's continued. It's not just a program. It's not just a one-time thing. Research shows that when we do trainings for teachers, one-time trainings do not help as much, hardly at all. They're not as effective as a continuous program, a continuous practice that's happening in the schools or in the community. Okay, so what we're supposed to do in schools is look at, wait a second, this is so, I'm just going to let you guys know that what we're supposed to be doing in schools is saying, what is failing? So we have to look at, if we're at 31%, like I just showed you, we have to look at the core basic right here and say, what is it that we're not doing right? What is it that we need to do? So that's what we're supposed to do according to the law. Okay? So ACEs and trauma, remember we said poverty, divorce, alcohol, and violence. Those are the highest, right, here in New Mexico. Okay, and the outcomes are detrimental to their educational achievement, graduation, employment, homelessness, substance abuse, incarceration, and health, and all of that. Okay, so preventing and treating ACEs and trauma. So I think you all have heard about trauma-informed care. Maybe some of you have heard about trauma-informed care. Yes. We need teachers to understand trauma-informed care. But we also need to prevent, because if you think about it, trauma-informed care means that we're looking at someone when they've already had trauma. So how can we prevent them from having more trauma? So we want primary prevention programs or practices. So we want to stop the occurrence of ACEs altogether. So we need something, so there's some amazing studies out there that talk about, Child Trends talks about, we have to have a comprehensive approach, like this gentleman was saying, comprehensive approach. It has to be education and communities and families. We have to all work together as a team on this. So we need to, so there's 4 recommendations that they make, okay? Oh, here, I was gonna use my thing. No, I like using this. So they say train family and child service providers in trauma-informed care. Promote adversity screening, okay, as one component of a comprehensive trauma-informed Strengths-based approach to addressing childhood diversity. Now, I can tell you, it's good to do this in a juvenile justice center. It's good to do this in medical centers. It's good to do this in every area, but we have to be very careful because asking children to talk about these things or remember them or to put them down is trauma, is producing trauma for them. Just like doing trainings in schools can be trauma, and instigate trauma for kids as well. Sorry, she's like, so support research to develop more sensitive tools that assess young children's exposure to adversity. So we need to support the research. If you're in a school, if you're in a facility, try to work with other groups, other organizations, so you guys can work together to make research happen. And increase the availability and accessibility of evidence-based therapies. Okay, remember, therapy is after something has happened. It could also be prevention, but it is mostly after something has happened. The fifth recommendation is expand preventive strategies, okay, to reduce the likelihood of a child experiencing those early adversities and its traumatic effects. So the most effective prevention programs are school, family, and community-based, okay? They go from preschool, elementary, middle, and high school. Oh, sorry, I should be going this way. Preschool, elementary, middle school, and high school. They're used as intended. They have to be used with with fidelity is what we call it in education. They need to be long-term, stretch across, span across. Sometimes we need to reteach them in the home, right? And even in classes in schools. It needs to be a practice, and we need to be able to master those skills. Training for educators, just like some of you were saying, parents and community members, which is what we're doing here. Target those academic, social, and emotional skills. Target all populations. So social and emotional learning does not single out any population. It's for everyone at any age. And promote positive environments. So if we do it with everyone, we're reducing stigma and labeling by other kids. It needs to be in multiple settings. It needs to be interactive. It needs to be something we do, okay? So prevention programs for substance abuse, according to this amazing drugabuse.org, preventing drug use. This is the study I was talking about, this report, amazing. Prevention programs for substance abuse have a $10 return on investment for every $1 that we invest in prevention. So when we're talking about funding, we're talking about money, right? We're going to move this money around for the Legislative Finance Committee allocations. We're going to move it around. We're going to give you more. Why don't we talk about reducing the amount of money we have to spend in the long run? So what schools can do, is they could teach K through 12th grade health education standards. Raise your hand if you've ever heard of the health education standards in schools. 2 people in this room. Now I want you guys, it's okay, I'm sorry, I should have said this first. How many educators do we have in this room? Okay. How many healthcare providers do we have in this room? How many mental health providers do we have in this room? How many law enforcement do we have in this room? How many parents do we have in this room? How many family members do we have in this room? All of us. Sorry, that was a trick. So it's interesting because only 2 people, and you're my husband, you can't raise your hand because he hears me talk about this all the time. 1 person in this room, and there's some other educators in here, said that they'd heard about the health education standards. Don't worry, I'm not trying to embarrass you. I was in education for 26 years before I even knew that there were health education standards. They're posted right there on our PED's website next to reading, writing, social studies, science, math, PE. PE is separate from health education. So these health education standards are taught there's 1 semester health class in high school. It's for half a credit for graduation. We have sex education. They pull those sex education standards out of the health education standards and put them in, teach sex education in 5th or 6th grade. Sometimes there's a health class in 7th or 8th grade. But imagine if our kids had financial literacy, media literacy, nutrition, drug and suicide prevention, mental, social, and emotional skills for 13 years. That's time to practice and master those skills. Their lives could be so much different. My life could have been a lot different. Yes, ma'am.
Is it throughout the United States or just New Mexico where we train the worst? Are there other states that have it in all 13 years?
That's a really good question. I don't know about all states, but I know some do and some don't. There are, and that's actually a really good point because New Mexico has these, and we have the social and emotional skills embedded in these health education standards. There are states scrambling to get these social and emotional skills standards created right now because they're trying to get on the social emotional skills bandwagon, right? And we already have it. That's something we have done right. We just need to use it. So we need to use these things. But the thing is, like we're talking, it's not just schools. Because we're so far behind and because we need to have a wraparound service approach, it's everybody. We all need to use these skills and help our kids and help other adults. So these are already required. The K through 12th grade health education standards are required. Oh. Did you have a question? I'm so sorry.
I'm going to make a comment actually.
Yes.
It's actually going to be more than 13 years because I oversee some child care centers.
Yes.
And we are in our 6th year using a social emotional curriculum.
Yep.
And we have 2-year-olds helping other 2-year-olds.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for bringing that up. So I do have an early childhood degree, and when I was getting my degree, I had to teach lessons that had social and emotional learning because early childhood has it already. Birth through 5 years old, we already have it. But when kids get to kindergarten, it's lost. Unless you have a proactive teacher who's doing it, right? So that's not fair. We could do so much more. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
So for brain research is that those first 5 years are so critical for
Yes.
connecting all this little learning.
Absolutely. Yes, those formative years. Mm-hmm. All those different years where we have those connections going on in the brain. Absolutely. If we could get that going, we could definitely do a lot more. So here's an example of the New Mexico K through 12th grade health education standards, okay? So for kindergarten, recognize different emotions. Seems pretty simple when you're in kindergarten, right? Then you get into 5th and 6th grade and it talks about describe the characteristics of peer pressure and its impact on mental, emotional, social, and physical health during adolescence in the areas related to sexuality, nutrition, alcohol, tobacco, and other drug use, physical activity, personal safety, mental, social, and emotional well-being. In 5th grade, we shouldn't be just talking about sexuality, we should be talking about all the rest of this. And they should be getting this as they go along, at appropriate ages, I think, when that's the thing. There is some controversy about the sex education standards. And so that's why we've addressed that in education. So here's some more. I'll skip through these because I think you guys get the point, is that we do have ways to address this right now. So school shooters. And I'm sorry, we're talking about this, but I don't know if you brought your child and you want them to leave. We're talking about this. We certainly can do that. But this is just some statistics. So there's a lot here. Why don't I let you guys just read that, because it's a lot. So this is called the crest of the wave. I've got you interested. You're reading. I'm not going to let you get bored. Okay. So, so basically what this is saying is that people who've committed these atrocious acts, they needed help and they did not get the help, whether it was from family or family taking them to a provider of some kind, or whether it was in schools. And like I said, in schools, we are mandated that we are supposed to be intervening, doing prevention and early intervention. We're supposed to be intervening when kids are displaying academic and behavioral difficulties to figure out what is going on. So, grief, revenge, having a grudge, desperation, extreme depression, bullying, loneliness, anger, and ACEs and trauma. It's all connected. Excuse me. Yes?
On that previous slide, those 4 percentages that you have on the left-hand side
Yes.
pretty much match the nation's demographics. I know they're different in this state. We have a totally different population in this state. But those 4 percentages pretty much match the race percentages in the nation. So that's really not out of whack.
Interesting. Okay.
Another thing that I see, like, is the percentage of kids who are exhibiting those characteristics seems like the kids that are getting booted out of school.
You know, you would think so.
So that takes away their ability to get further intervention, because if they're not getting it at home. Our last school shooter threat on the west side, parents were actually charged with contributory crimes because they were warned about the threat and did nothing to prevent it.
Right. And actually, when it comes to, so that's true that's mostly true when it comes to like suspensions and expulsions. But isn't this amazing? 2/3 of the attackers came from 2-parent family homes. 41% of them were earning A's and B's in their coursework. 63% of these students were committing violent acts already. They showed interest in violence in movies, videos, games, and books. But here we are, it's basically they're not getting the help that they need. They need to get intervention. Intervention is the key. So who's going to do this? All of us. We all need to do it. Absolutely. And what I find so amazing about the founder of this program is that her son was murdered in Sandy Hook Elementary. And she says, it's my responsibility. I need to get this out there. I need to make sure that kids have these tools and skills when they are at school. So we have to address the cause of the issues for the solution, not just the effects. Oh, hope I didn't miss it. Let's see.
Forgiveness, in my case, it's really the only way for me to take my personal power. For me to not allow the man who viciously, brutally murdered my son, all the rest, to have control over my thoughts. The Jessie Lewis Choose Love movement is a program that teaches everyone to thoughtfully respond in any situation by choosing love. Because when we choose love in our responses, we take our personal power back and we make the world a better place. I've literally almost always been a single mom, raising 2 boys on a farm by myself. I had a long commute, so Jesse was at school a lot. He loved school. He had a fun time there. He was very outgoing. He was a loud kid and had a good time. He was very confident in himself and he did well. I was at work. One of my friends had said there's been a shooting in Sandy Hook. I decided to go to the school. I didn't really get really worried, believe it or not, until I got close to the school. There were people running and yelling, and there were helicopters and military men and first responders all over the place, and people with megaphones, and I was like, oh my God, this is a big deal. And sometimes I talk about it and I don't cry. Sometimes I do.
Authorities say that a woman could be reported on. Is likely to come today.
I came home to get Jesse's clothes for the funeral. and saw a message that Jesse had written sometime shortly before he died on our kitchen chalkboard. He wrote 3 words: nurturing, healing, love, and it just stopped me right in my tracks. It's amazing you It is amazing. People ask me, did you walk around saying nurturing, healing, love? And I laugh, because I say, no, I was a single mom with a full-time job. Those 3 words never came out of my mouth, unfortunately. Hey guys, when we think about school safety, we think about active shooter protocol, arming or not arming school resource officers, but none of that addresses the cause of why a child will go into a school and want to harm themselves or someone else. Teaching kids how to connect with each other, how to have healthy relationships, how to be resilient for the things that we know are going to come in life, how to express emotions in a healthy way, how to manage conflict. Thank you. No. Thank you. The formula starts with courage. Courage underlies all the others. Our next character value is gratitude. Healing means forgiveness, and forgiveness is so vitally important. How does anger feel in your body? Our final character value is compassion in action, the action component, which is when you actively do something to help ease that pain. People are starting to come to this realization there's nothing else works. I've never experienced a lot of anger towards Adam Lanza. He must have been in a tremendous amount of pain. If he had been able to give and receive nurturing, healing love, the tragedy would never have happened. I never went back to work. I had to spend the rest of my life making sure that this didn't happen again. I do everything that I can to spread the message that Jesse left and make the world a better place.
So I just wanted you to hear that from her own words. It was really important. Her story of what happened is pretty powerful, and I hardly ever see her cry, but you know, she's just mission driven. She knows that this is what needs to happen, and so she created this program. And I was a teacher in one of the first of the 4 states in the United States, here in New Mexico, and taught art and Choose Love and a social emotional learning program. And when I couldn't teach that, because the next year I got an elementary reading interventions teacher job, I taught an after-school program with 4 days a week with Choose Love. And it was amazing. It was so empowering to see these kids using some of these skills. And it's the skills and strategies, and so fluently. It became part of their life. They really did understand how to do it. So let's talk a little bit more about the program. Buffering?
That's what Ashton says when I take too long to answer a question. I'm suffering.
I love that. I love that.
Stand by, Mom, it's buffering.
Well, sometimes you gotta think about it while you're doing 5 other things, you know?
Yes. And I'm trying to remember to breathe right now because, you know, I have lots of breathing time.
Are we gonna have a point where we get to talk about how as parents we can put these skills to work in our homes?
Yes. And I also want to make sure you guys know that, actually, can you start passing those out? Thank you guys so much. So these young people are passing out bracelets that have the formula on them for Choose Love. So the formula is courage, gratitude, forgiveness, and compassion in action. And from the research, we found that these are really the key. In any situation, we can choose one of those, maybe two, maybe three, maybe four, and those will be the answer to what we need to do in that moment. Do I need to do something?
I restarted it.
Okay. So while we're waiting, here are some action steps that we can take. So schools, and then the families and homes, communities, and just basically everyone. So if you wouldn't mind taking a few of those and passing them down.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll get over to this side. There you go. There you go. You're welcome.
You just want to go to the one after the video.
After the videos, yeah. This one right here. Yeah.
There you go.
Awesome. You're amazing. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Three more if anybody needs everyone aligning.
Did you all get some back there? I think in the back they didn't get any.
We have access to this.
Oh, okay. Very good, very good. All right, so basically what happens when we decide to do something that is not good for us or others is that we usually have an angry thought, right? Or maybe a sad thought or a fearful thought, okay? So it was the angry thought that caused that tragedy. But the good news is that thoughts can be changed. So we have, this is called the cognitive triangle. He's nodding his head, he knows what this is. So between our thoughts and our feelings and our behavior, okay, they're all connected, there is a space. It's called a choice. There is that space, that moment. Some people call it the, inner voice. Some people call it intuition. Some people just feel, a quietness. And it's that moment when we have a choice that we can make a different choice. So social and emotional learning, this is defined by CASEL. They're the authority on social and emotional learning. The definition of it is self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, which I just exercised, relationship skills, and responsible decision making. And we have to have it in classrooms, schools, homes, and communities. We have to have those partnerships. And we also need to have policies, school-wide practices, policies in place. It has to be, it's not as effective if it's just one classroom in a school. It's mostly effective if it's the whole school with a positive culture. It's better if it's in the home too, and the more places we can have social emotional learning skills. Okay, so self-awareness is basically the ability to identify emotions, have an accurate self-perception, recognize strengths, have self-confidence, and self-efficacy. Self-management means that we have impulse control. We have stress management. We exercise self-discipline, self-motivation, goal setting, and organizational skills. And social awareness is perspective taking. We can see what other people are thinking. We can kind of think ahead. We have empathy, and we appreciate people's diversity, and we have respect for them. Relationship skills include communication, social engagement, relationship building, and teamwork. Responsible decision-making skills are identifying problems, analyzing situations, solving problems, evaluating, reflecting, and we have ethical responsibility. So these are responsible decision-making, or they're higher order thinking skills. We can address these in education as well as out in life, all of these skills. So there's so many benefits of social emotional learning. We can improve academic performance of students. It's been proven by like 11% or more. 22% improvement in social emotional skills just by using a program of some kind. 10% increase in higher graduation rates, 10% decrease, and that's just the beginning. Like, our country is just getting going on social emotional learning as being a focus in education and in our society. Less behavioral issues, less stress and anxiety, less bullying. This can help teachers too. teachers need these skills, especially teachers like me. I grew up, I mean, I wouldn't yell at the kids in schools. I had a 6th grade class and they tried to make me. I wouldn't do it. But, you know, I think that growing up here in New Mexico and having the kind of trauma and adverse experiences that I had, I could have used this as a teacher as well. So that's one way we can help retain our teachers, by making it a much more positive climate for them to work in, less behavior issues of students. So it's the number one way for a healthy school environment, proactive, preventative. Top employers. There's a study out by Harvard. They're starting to screen people for social and emotional skills. Yes, for entering into the programs there. And it breaks those cycles of dysfunction, generational cycles that we have here in New Mexico especially. And tax burdens, I know you saw that. So we're focusing on solutions. So what we teach kids and adults in this program is that we can't focus on everything. We can only have control of certain things. So we help to teach them that kind of self-management, self-discipline. So we have to start thinking about, what are we thinking about? That's kind of like metacognition, right? Metacognitive awareness in teaching. We want to help kids understand how they are learning, so they know how they learn best, and they'll be able to carry that skill out throughout their life in college. So we want to think about what we're thinking about. So I want everybody to just take a moment, and I want you to just relax your bodies, close your eyes, relax your shoulders. Now I want you to take deep breath in, but I want you to breathe through your nose, and I want you to breathe slowly and try to fill up your tummy for 4 seconds. And then hold for 4 seconds. And then try to breathe out slowly through your nose for 4 seconds. And hold for 4 seconds. This is hard when you haven't done it before, but continue trying. 4 seconds in. 4 seconds out. 4 seconds in. And 4 seconds out. 2 more times. Okay. Now just open your eyes. Do you feel different? Things feel different, don't they? So we're calmer. We're getting more oxygen in our brains, and that allows us to access the logical thinking portions of our brains. There's this new kind of, not new, epigenetics. What it means is that we are not destined by our DNA. The way we think about our DNA is going to, it's like the placebo effect. So if we have this tendency to be relaxed about things and calm, great. If we don't, well, we can train ourselves to be that way. So epigenetics, try to say that 3 times. Epigenetics is basically how we think about things. So it's our gene expression rather than what we're actually doing. So we can't always choose what happens to us, but we can always choose how we respond. And I really want to play this video. I hope it works. Or not. Sorry. So basically what we're teaching kids is how their brains work. We want them to understand that the way that they think controls their actions. So we can change our thoughts. And we have a couple of areas of the brain that we teach them about. The fight or flight part of the brain, the amygdala, which is the emotional part of the brain, and then the prefrontal cortex, which is the front logical thinking part of our brain. So as far as is concerned with teaching the program, we differentiate it for all the different grade levels. So preschool, we have different materials for different age levels.
Kids bully each other because they want to off-put their pain onto someone else, and they want to have a sense of control. What happens when you feel out of control? You get angry. Why do kids do drugs? Because they want to reduce their anxiety. They want to feel good. They want to get high. They want to belong. Why do kids join gangs? They want that sense of belonging. They're ultimately looking for love. You know, we have a negative bias in our society. We focus on the negative, and we see a lot of that programming in our schools. And what happens when you focus on the negative? It grows. We're constantly scanning for danger. Our thoughts create our perception of our reality. And as Wayne Dyer says, loving people live in a loving world, fearful people live in a fearful world. It's the same world. I think it's easy to go down a fearful path, but that is not a productive path. There's really only two kinds of people. There are good people and good people in pain. And that's a really hopeful statement because we can all do something to help ease another's pain. Because we're all the same in the want and need to love and be loved. We look at each other and we see perceived differences, but in actuality, we are all exactly the same. We need love. We want to belong. And we want to feel good. We want to be happy. We're all the same in those things. So even though you can't always choose what happens to you, you can always choose how you respond, and you can always respond in love. Social emotional learning is really the number one way to cultivate a safe school environment because you're cultivating the safety from inside a child out. Protocols, external safety measures, those are important, but it's only social emotional learning that's going to do that because kids that can have healthy and positive relationships, that have deep and meaningful connections with one another, that are resilient and can manage their emotions. In other words, kids that choose love and love one another, they are not going to want to harm one another. We have the solution within us. It's just cultivating the skills and tools that we need. Social emotional learning is not innate. These skills and tools are not something that we're born with. We have to learn them. But the great news is they're easy to teach and easy to learn. Go to your schools. Ask if you have a social emotional learning program. If you do, how's it working out? Great. If you don't, we have a free, comprehensive, pre-K through 12th grade social and emotional learning program that teaches kids how to choose love in any situation. Love is the only thing that can transcend what is going on here now, and we all have the ability to choose love, and that honestly is what is going to be the ultimate solution.
So choose love teaches, yes.
I don't have a question, I just want to point out a positive. The audio visual did not fail. It taught us exactly what it is to listen.
Oh!
And to see things, we have forgotten how to listen.
Wow. Thank you so much. Wow. Wow, thank you so much. And then you guys have been all wonderful about using your prefrontal cortex and your logical thinking part of not letting your emotions and your fight or flight part of your brain take over. So great example. And I did as well. So we teach them about the lizard part of the brain. This is for little kids, so we want to give them a visual. The numbat. Who's ever heard of a numbat? I didn't know about a numbat until we started this program, but a numbat that's the symbol for the emotional part of the brain. And then hug the human, that's Jesse, the little boy who was murdered. And so we tell the kids, leave the lizard, nudge the numbat, and hug the human. So of course, when we get into the middle school, elementary, middle school, we teach them a little bit more information about the brain. But that's the formula that we try to use. And PTSD, who's ever heard of PTG? Yeah, PTG, it's post-traumatic growth. We can grow from the trauma, we can learn from it, we can improve our lives from it, we can use it as something that's beneficial. I need to mention that it's aligned, Choose Love Enrichment Program is aligned with Common Core. It's aligned with the American School Counselors Association's Mindset and Behavior Standards. It's aligned with the CASEL's, standing right here, CASEL's standards. And it's also really easy to learn. Once you get these basic concepts that I'm teaching you, you can take the manual, the educator guide, and the lessons and just take it. And it is part of the response intervention framework. We're using it in 50 states, 77 countries in the world. This is only word of mouth. We're not even advertising. Over 1 million students. That was in Rwanda. Jesse's brother, JT, actually reached out to some people in Rwanda to help him cope with his tragedy, and he started Choose Love out there. Okay, so the survey results from the instructors and teachers is great. It's not a program. One of the things I hear is teachers say, and like someone else, I can't remember who it was, said, we don't need another thing to do. But, and I understand that, but this is preventative and proactive, so it helps save time and save energy and save heartache and save all the effort that we have to put into trying to mitigate behavior issues later. Okay, so we want to practice emotional intelligence. I'm going to skip through some of these because I think, so we're talking about real life, okay? Somebody give me an example of a time where you would need to use courage. In fact, I'm going to ask the kids in the room. What's a time where you think you might need to use courage? Yes? Sports, okay. Okay. Anybody else?
When someone else is getting bullied and you have to stand up to the bully.
That can take courage for sure. Absolutely. Anything else?
For kids that don't have good emotional skills, just going to school.
Yes. Sometimes even just getting out of bed and wanting to go to school, right? Anybody else? Mm-hmm. Yep. Anybody else? Helping somebody what? In need, okay, in some way, right? Taking a step out of our own comfort zone to help someone else, absolutely. So we have to have courage for a lot of things. We have to have courage to forgive people, right? So Scarlett talks about forgiving Adam Lanza, the shooter at the school. He was a 21-year-old, and he was plagued with issues, and she just realized that he needed some social emotional learning skills to be able to cope with the issues that he was facing. And so she was able to forgive him, but she has to keep forgiving him. Every once in a while, it comes back up and there's anger. We were just out in Connecticut for his birthday. It was a retreat, a benefit concert that a band did. And, it was hard. It was hard for her. Why isn't my son here? She had to re-forgive. She had to forgive. But forgiving cuts the ties that other person has control of us with. Who could think of, kids, anybody can think of a forgiveness, or so, gratitude. So gratitude's the next one. What could you be grateful for? Yes. Life. Yeah. Yep. Sometimes we can be grateful for the big things, and sometimes we can be grateful for the little things. But what this program teaches people is that sometimes we have to have courage even when we have to have gratitude even when we're not getting something we want. When we're not able to achieve something that we thought we were going to, or sometimes we have to focus on gratitude instead of focusing on the hard thing that we were not able to do or that we didn't get. So we have to teach people how to be grateful for the little things, the big things. Forgiveness, we already talked about that. And then compassion. Who knows what compassion means? It's an interesting question because people confuse compassion and empathy. So, who knows what compassion means? Compassion is a mixture of empathy and action. It's recognizing someone else's feelings and then doing something to help. So compassion in action is the other part of the formula. So that was a video, but wow. Yeah. Like, wow.
Not choosing love, right? Like, gosh, I'm trying to choose love. So I went to school and I didn't know where, like, just waiting on me, and I was like, I felt, I wasn't satisfied, but I didn't know where I was going to get really angry, or I needed to handle it. And so I told the kids, I gotta talk to you guys about this. Let's talk about this. You guys need to help me choose love. And so we went through it, okay? The courage and gratitude of forgiveness and compassion, okay? So Mrs. Major, right, she had the courage to be the bigger person. She did start road rage on the highway, okay? Right? And we've seen it too. We've seen it, right? People slam over. Who did that?
She's talking about driving in a car.
Yeah. Okay, so Miss Major had some courage to not react.
Have to have courage to not react.
That she knows how to choose love. So we'll talk about, right? I was able to just be grateful that I could be the bigger person. So we moved into, okay, forgiveness. And I told them, like, I'm still not mad at him. I really don't think that I should have treated that because nobody's right.
It's hard to forgive somebody when they're driving and, right? Well,
yeah. Right? No, okay. You know what, we're going to cut that. He's gone. Forgiveness. And compassion. Stuff is, right? Why would someone do that? Maybe he's going through a really hard time in his life. We're not making excuses, but maybe he has something really bad happening. I don't know where he's coming from or where he's going. Right? So we go right.
Maybe he's on the way to the hospital, right? On the road.
10-minute talk, and that was a short choose up, and it was real life and it was vulnerable. And kids, when you see them authentic with it, it's not just reading the curriculum, right? We take that and we use it to teachers who are humans too. And when we put it all together, it just makes such a big difference. That's my short story about that, and the kids, they appreciate that. They respond.
So I gave you guys the bracelets, and here's a formula on the back of this, and then there's also some there on the handouts. So it's basically you just spend 10 minutes, not even 10 minutes. I've gotten to the point where I can go through the whole formula in my mind, like in a minute. Like, okay, do I need to have courage here? Okay, do I have gratitude? Okay, forgiveness. Okay, cover the bases. And it's so easy. It's so fast and easy to be able to do it. There's a lot of common elements. I'm going to skip all those. For the educators in the room, we could spend more time if you want me to come to your schools, or I could do a training on the actual program and what it does and what it has. So the definitions of courage is the willingness and ability to work through obstacles despite feeling embarrassment, fear, reluctance, or uncertainty. Can any kids in this room tell me if you had a story to tell about this kind of courage? Reluctance to maybe say something, even if you were feeling embarrassed, maybe? Yeah, they're scared right now. Yeah, right. Well, it's okay because we want to make sure that this is a safe place, okay? So if you want to share something, you can. If you don't want to, that's fine. Do you have one to share? I'm looking at her because I can tell she's wanting to. Okay, go ahead. We're listening. Trying out for basketball. Absolutely. What was embarrassing about it?
You were the one that was there. Don't look at him, Vera.
What was embarrassing about it? Okay, I'll tell you my story first, then you can tell me, okay? So I grew up in Espanola, and I was one of the only white people at my school, and I was trying out for basketball, and you had to wear these shorts. I was embarrassed, because I'm so white. I'm like ghost white. So I'd put this copper tone tanning lotion stuff on. This is back in the 80s, okay? That stuff was orange. Okay, it was not a tan, it was orange. So that's my embarrassing story. Basketball, I didn't last. I didn't have the courage. I didn't continue.
Robin, were you worried that like you wouldn't do well during tryouts?
Yeah,
And then what happened?
I made it.
See, there you go. So if we don't have courage, sometimes we can't even achieve some of the things that we want to achieve, right? All right, so there's lots of benefits, not only for our attitudes and for our success in life, but for our health. Having courage helps us with health. In every situation, in every interaction, we have that choice that we can make that, okay? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and skip through some of these. There's lots of benefits to all of this, the whole formula.
Could I give you a scenario and have you walk like these guys in the audience through it?
Sure.
Social media, and somebody posts something crappy about you,
Right.
or replies in a snippy way to something you posted.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's like a way of like using the formula that all these guys or all of us who are on social media?
Mm-hmm.
I should look at the analogy later. To be able to use the formula to get through that.
Okay, so I'm going to role play. Thank you. That's a great scenario. So I see something on social media, and I'm like, what? Okay, well, I'm going to have that thought, but then there's that moment where I can choose something different. So I'm going to start breathing. I'm going to get some oxygen into my prefrontal cortex. I'm not going to react through my emotions or from my fight, part of my fight or flight. Right. So I'm going to take some, if it's reactionary, I'm going to have the courage to step aside and just move on, do something else, take some time. Is it something I need to respond to? Is it not? Do I need to just have gratitude for something? Maybe I could even express gratitude to them and show them, say something to them that would model gratitude or model compassion. Maybe they're struggling with something. We don't know. So I need to also use in that moment, I also need to forgive them. Or maybe I'll do it later. Maybe I need some time to think about it and I won't forgive them for another 5-10 minutes. But as you practice this, it becomes faster and faster.
There's a Gil Gallegos, who's our communications director, taught me something really important, because I'll get emails from people, or I'll get some people, and I just want to be like, and it's called the 24-hour rule. Like, anybody use the 24-hour rule?
Oh yeah, I use it.
That if you get a crappy email or somebody leaves you a message or a text, and the first thing you want to do is strike back, make yourself wait 24 hours before you respond. And it has saved me so many battles.
Yep, absolutely. That's a good one. Sorry, I'm still going through. Does anybody else have another scenario that they're struggling with that we could talk about, that they're willing to share? We could talk about how we could use the formula for it. Okay.
I have a scenario that
You do?
Yeah,
Okay.
in the workforce.
Yes.
I had employed a really close friend of my son's, and they decided to leave, and they posted something extremely hurtful on social media, and I mean, your first reaction is, how dare you? And it was hurtful.
I'm sorry to hear that. Thank you for sharing.
You know, the best solution is not to react, and I do know, and I do have compassion for this person. She is a very negative person, unfortunately. But in the workplace, that's harder now.
Yes.
People aren't getting these skills. And I'm kind of scared because she just passed her teacher's exam, so she's going to be teaching our young kids.
Mm-hmm.
And if she doesn't have these skills and doesn't have access to this information, you know, that's more children that we're failing.
So, you know, I think in your situation, I think you're going to be breathing a lot when you're thinking about this, right? Because that's one thing we do when we feel anxiety, frustration, grief, or anything like that. We stop breathing. You'll notice that now more. You will notice that we stop breathing because we're feeling stress, right? When we're crying, we're like, you know, sometimes even gulping for air, right? So we have to train ourselves to breathe in the middle of it. And you're going to have to exercise courage to either say something or not. And we can say things to be, I mean, sometimes it takes courage to be honest, you know, to say something, you know, maybe in a nice way, not in a way that's going to hurt them too, right? Maybe you're going to have to exercise forgiveness, you know, and maybe express some gratitude for your friendship. And still being able to, I mean, see how like we have to use all of these sometimes at the same time. And having compassion for her because you don't know what's going on. So, and maybe you know, I'm a believer, so I'd be praying that she continues to be around people and learn these skills. But one thing I want to make sure you know, and I definitely see your hand over there, I'm going to call on you in just a second, is that the teachers now, the teacher preparation standards in the colleges have social and emotional learning skills in them. It's pretty recent. So we're teaching teachers how to teach social and emotional learning in school. Now we need to teach it in school. So
maybe you could like reframe it and see, is this a problem or an opportunity?
Right.
And you are the bigger person. For a fact, this woman has been through hell and back and has come out a champion. And I guarantee you can find a way to make this an opportunity.
Yeah. Yep. And courage is asking for help. What?
If not, Ferris carries a gun.
Yes, sir. I mean, ma'am. Sorry.
I know a person who doesn't like criticism and won't yell at anybody who gives criticism about what they're doing. Two people actually who are like, hey, how do I handle that person without being snarky at them? And pretend they can have everybody.
You know, that's such a great question. And I know in my own life, and I've seen other people, honestly, we have to make a decision about what our boundaries are in our life. What do we want to continue to allow in our life? Is it toxic? Is it adding to the toxic stress in our life? Is it adding to something that we need to say, I'm sorry, I can't do this anymore? I mean, I think that we can talk to people, you know, and express ourselves and try, but sometimes we have to have boundaries. So, and there's also the kind of thing that you can do in like the blocking or hiding. You can hide them so you don't have to see those negative, angry, critical things, right? Is this a good friend of yours?
No, but there are the other server so it's kind of hard to hide.
Yeah.
But I'd block and find you another server.
So using the formula, you know, take some deep breaths. And you know, one of the other things that the program teaches is mindfulness. And when I first heard mindfulness, I heard meditation, and I was like way against, the concept of like different religions and stuff. That was years and years ago, but I feel like I've changed a lot with that, and I've been able to be more open-minded and stuff. And I look at mindfulness as focused awareness. Sometimes we just need to let our minds go. In our society today, we have so much stimulus. It's constant. We need to be able to just let our minds relax and not think and just let go of everything. It's hard to do. Have you ever tried doing that? Meditating or doing mindfulness activities is really challenging, but that's why we practice it. We practice these things so that we can make better decisions later. So for every $1 invested in social and emotional learning, there's an $11 return. And that includes in the areas of incarceration and mental health and substance abuse. Lots of studies have showed that kids who learned social emotional learning when they were in kindergarten, they followed them through, had much more success in life. They were happier. Sandy Hook Advisory Commission, after the tragedy, advised that we have to have social emotional learning be an integral part of our curriculum from preschool through high school. There's a Stop the Violence Act, which was started in 2018. It was recently passed. The state of New Hampshire is doing something really amazing. They actually figured out this was the one thing that was missing in their entire report. I have a letter from Perry Plummer that recommends social emotional learning, Choose Love, because they went through their whole school safety reports and they realized this was the one piece that was missing. They hadn't addressed it. It was all the external safety measures and things like that. And so he hired a Choose Love program coordinator through his office who goes to all the different schools and the office organizations and teaches how to use the program. And they're just they're getting it out there in the community. It's like wildfire. I want to see New Mexico do that. They're number one. They're number one in the state for overall child well-being. Number one. I want to follow their lead. And I don't want us to be last. We don't need to be last in anything anymore. We need to show the whole world that we're going to go from here to here. We can do this. So the final report of the Federal Commission on School Safety just released in December. The only program mentioned in here is Choose Love. And I actually wrote a bill. It's called the Mental, Social, and Emotional Learning Act, HB 591. In this last session, it was introduced. It didn't go through committees because the wording wasn't quite right. And the governor does want to, support it this coming session because it needs to have an appropriation where we're talking about training, right, for teachers and money for training for teachers. That's what we need. We need to make sure that we're making sure that that's in place. So I would appreciate your support on that. That's on your list of action steps to take. So many materials. I just can't even. There's an at-home program. It's a great program. It takes like 3 hours to go through the whole thing, but it's broken up into little videos, so you can watch like a 10-minute, 15-minute video with your family, with one of your family members, and you can practice the skills that are on there. So let's see. You just need to sign up, and then you can do downloads. You can have access to everything on there. The enrichment program, it's totally free. It's totally online. Educators have training online. There's the at-home program and the communities program. There's little videos for kids. There's a store. You can get like posters, and this is for the classroom, one of those alphabet things that goes across the wall. There's tons of videos. There's all these research. We do webinars. I know Ferris was saying she's been listening to some of Scarlett's podcasts recently. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, I can't see you.
Do you have to be an active educator to be able to download?
No, you don't. Yep, you just have to say that you're not an educator, but you're downloading the program. And it's pre-K through 12th grade. There's a whole binder for every single grade level. It's all differentiated for all the different levels. An educator guide for everything. So there's an at-home, a communities program. I wanted to make sure I got to this, to talk to you guys about these. Scarlett is one of the most amazing people. She just wants to share the space with everybody because she knows that social emotional learning and all these different strategies are so important for free. All these programs are already on the website. They're accessible. They're completely free. The tapping solution is a different way of without having to talk about it, you can relieve stress and tension. Sensational Kids, it's health, movement, and mindfulness, so it's active learning. Empowered parenting, and then this one I think is the grief program. There are several others. This one is a little bit outdated. There's several others, so on the website they have that. So I gave you guys a handout. So let's talk about what we need to model these skills. So in families and homes, if your school doesn't have a program, by all means suggest that they get one and tell them about this one. I have some brochures for you guys. Sorry. I will just let you guys take those now. And I want to give you some calendars that give you one thing you can do every single day to practice the different strategies, the different formula. So, and we come out with all kinds of resources and materials for parents, families, for educators. So what we're hoping to do is get classes going in. So I can't do everything in the whole state. I want to train people who can actually teach the program and teach about all the different resources that they have. So I'm looking for people who are interested in that. We're trying to get this out into the community. For instance, New Hampshire, the police department has the little ducks on their cars. Like on the hoods of their cars and on their, so they're like in the fire department and all kinds. It's just, it's making it a community effort. And so here's some more. Let's see, I guess we'll pass those out if you don't mind. Yep. And then so the last thing that I wanted to do with you guys today is to ask you to sign this pledge. Ferris, are we going to have a bulletin board here?
Are we what?
Are we going to have a bulletin board? Did you get my text?
No.
I was hoping we could set up a bulletin board, and that way people can sign the Choose Love Pledge in the community whenever they come in. Okay, awesome. Oh, hello. Beautiful. Oh my gosh, I feel so honored. Oh my gosh, thank you.
You're going to be the first one on the bulletin board.
Gosh, that's so awesome. I love bulletin boards. I'm a teacher. I love them. So this is the Choose Love Pledge. Okay, we want everybody to know that we are doing this together, and we're going to support all of our people. Homeless, those in poverty, those who are struggling with drug abuse and addiction, and mothers, brand new mothers in schools, brand new mothers in hospitals. We have an infants and toddlers program. We're coming out with an at-work program. We're even coming out with they're working on the coaching program. Coaches need social and emotional learning too. I know, I had some good coaches and some bad coaches with my kids. So this says, by signing this pledge, we promise to choose love every day. We will have courage, even when things are hard. We will have an attitude of gratitude. We will choose loving thoughts over angry thoughts. We will show compassion in our words and actions. So we would be very honored if you would sign this, and we'll just...
It'll go on the bulletin board.
Yay!
And I'll leave some spots.
I'll pass a couple over this way. There you go. And also, if you would like more information about the workshops or doing training, becoming an advocate, coming to some of the workshops, this was like an education workshop, like to kind of give you the background stuff. But if you want like specific training on the program and how to use it and things like that, please, there's a sign-up sheet in here. So I'd like for you to take that. Probably would have been easier for you guys to grab them going out the door, but there's one of each. So gratitude, courage. Oh, here, you want to take that one to the other side? We can probably split them in half. And there's a compassion and action and a forgiveness calendar. So it gives you something you can do every day to practice these skills. Okay? There's gratitude, forgiveness. Okay. There we go. And then they'll pass the forgiveness. Oh, shoot. On that. Does anybody have any questions? We only have about a minute left, but I can stay later, a little bit later. Yes?
Have you ever heard of the nurtured heart approach?
Yes, I have. And
Is it anything similar?
I don't know. I keep hearing the words nurturing heart approach. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, I keep hearing about it, but I'm not exactly sure how it compares.
Okay.
I just know that this is one of the only, this is the only, like, whole comprehensive program that I've ever seen, which it addresses schools, homes, communities, work, everything. So, but I don't know. I need to look into that more.
I was trained in the nurtured.
Oh, you were? Was it at schools?
At school.
Okay.
But it wasn't implemented in our school. It was, someone brought it in and, you know, we were able to train, and it was in special ed preschool.
Yes.
So then, you know, of course.
And that's another whole point. You're absolutely correct. That in schools and also kids with disabilities desperately need these skills. They really need these skills. Students with autism and schools with students with ADHD and emotional disturbance, they really need these skills. So if we could just teach it to everybody, we'll all be good. Right? Everybody. Any other questions?
So one of the things we do in Tucson, and it's a district outside of Tucson, it's Bill's school district. Inclusion.
Yes.
And I don't know if we started that yet, but I mean.
Yes, we have inclusion. Yes.
And having them in classroom full time with one-on-ones.
Yes. And gifted students. Yeah, gifted students really need social and emotional skills as well.
And allow children just to learn compassion for those that are different for them.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. My kids were in an inclusion class in kindergarten. It was the best classroom ever, and there were kids with disabilities of all kinds, some really severe, some just moderate, and some mild. And it was the most amazing classroom. Everybody was taught how to be compassionate and look at each other the same, you know, and everyone's capable. It was the most amazing experience. And there are schools who some schools have that model, and some schools are still doing the like special education resource room type model. Let's see what else. There was one last thing. Oh, it was the let's see. Oh, the certificates. That's what it was. Okay, so I'm going to start signing these and handing these certificates out to you guys out here as you're going out. So I'll just be out here. If there's not any more questions. Thank you, Ferris.
And I'll do the wrap up.
Oh, thank you.